So the first question that I've got in this series is, will Mike Budenholzer finally realize that Giannis needs to play over 40 minutes a game in the playoffs? Hopefully. The other big question I have is, can the Bucks score on the Heat consistently? Because even as Miami has had all their problems this year, they've still held up on defense. Whether it's zone, trapping, switching, conventional man-to-man stuff, whatever they want to do, they've been good at it this season. A big reason being, of course, Bam is amazing, and maybe he's an all-defense guy, maybe he isn't. Jimmy is, of course, great as well. There are some options. There's Giannis setting a million screens on and off the ball. There's guys setting screens for Giannis. Now, the obvious one would be Brook Lopez as far as how much he is going to play versus Giannis playing center. That's going to be interesting. I think another move could be getting Middleton to the middle of the floor, which is usually the one spot where the zone is open, and then you allow him to just make a play from there, because he can shoot. So, of course, Miami's going to have to respect him if he's right there, and you could get cutters and that sort of action to counter the zone. You could also just put Giannis in the post or have him go mismatch hunting, but that's partly why Miami runs the zone in the first place. So it's a little tougher to just be like, hey, Tyler Hero, get over here. You're now defending Giannis, or you're involved in a two-man game with Giannis, you know? But that said, that would require the Bucks to run a lot of Giannis screens, and that's something that we've been yelling at them to do for years, and they started to lean into it a little bit more this year, so we'll see if it's a thing. And honestly, this might be the most important thing. I didn't mention it first, but it could be. They cannot give Bam the luxury of being able to free roam on defense. And if they run the zone, then that's going to be the objective. And I'm just trying to think, like, if Bam is on Brook, how much is he really going to respect Brook Lopez? I don't think he's going to be glued to him in the corner. I think Bam's going to want to be moving around. That would be the one thing, because if Giannis is at center, Bam's going to have to stick to him, of course. Weary of it. It's like, well, we can't score because Bam doesn't have to care about Brook Lopez at all, because he shoots, 34% from three, and he doesn't cut to the basket or whatever from the perimeter. The obvious response to that is you put Brook Lopez in the dunker spot, but would that hurt the spacing a little too much? Don't know, there's a fine line there. Now, if they run action at Bam with Brook, I guess the hope could be you force a switch, but then it's a matter of, are the Bucks really going to throw the ball to Brook Lopez in the post that much? I don't think they will. But I also don't like the chances of any of these guys trying to beat Bam in a one-on-one. And if Giannis is at center a good amount, it's still going to be difficult. I think the next interesting thing is Giannis's passing really good enough to make the smart play when the Heat are throwing so many guys at him? I should say first, I don't even know who the primary defender on Giannis is going to be. I don't think it can be Jimmy, because then Jimmy's just going to be exhausted given everything he's going to have to do on offense. That'll be something to see. Of course, if Giannis is at center, then Bam will be guarding Giannis a lot. But yeah, to get back to the passing, I mean, Giannis is going to have to make plays. He's going to have to just notice who's open, as obvious as that sounds. And I mean, Giannis is a good passer, no doubt, but he might have to be a great one to deal with Miami's defense. Now, the Bucks have had guys in the dunker spot a little bit more this season, whether it's Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis, Middleton, whoever, and that'll hopefully make Giannis's job a little bit easier when the Heat are loading up on him. I think some off-ball movement for Middleton and Drew would be great in this series as well. I just don't want the Bucks offense to just ever slow down to the point where it's like Giannis just has to create everything right now. To think about Drew, he's way better than Bledsoe, of course, and if you're going to think about Giannis setting a lot of screens, well, obviously Drew would be the main guy. Now, that said, you imagine Miami will dare Drew to take some jump shots. He's been an up-and-down shooter throughout his career. Very good this season, so we'll see there. And I do trust Drew to make the right plays. He's a very good passer. If we talk about Middleton, so this is my gut, and this could be wrong, as everything here could be wrong. I feel like if we're going to see Jimmy defending any of the big three on the Bucks, I feel like it's going to be Middleton the most. Of course, Jimmy can't just do everything on defense because they need him on offense, but if Middleton is not going to be really, really good, then obviously that's going to hurt. And sure, Drew is going to make up for some of this, but it's something that's always like not great with the Bucks is that they do ask Middleton to do a little too much, in my opinion. And he, by the way, he has, for the most part, been able to do it, especially in the regular seasons. But it's like, sometimes he's forced to go ISO. He's forced to just create something out of screens, and it's just like, this is the type of guy who should be moving off the ball more than creating something out of nothing. Now, it should be said, Middleton was very good last year against Miami, so the obvious thing is, well, he'll do it again, right? Well, I would like to believe the NBA is not that simple. In terms of other random things, DiVincenzo could be a bit of a swing guy in this series where one game he's making threes, making the right pass, attacking closeouts, the next game he chucks up like 4 dumb pull-up jumpers. It's like, what the hell is this? Also, if they're ever going to sag off a Giannis, it's either got to be he uses that space to get a runway to the rim, or you run a handoff play with probably Middleton. Anyway, if we can now get to the Heat trying to score on the Bucks. To me, the first interesting thing with thinking about how the Bucks are going to defend Miami, before we get into the switching and all that nice stuff, who's the primary guy on Jimmy? Will Giannis be more of an on-ball defender? I mean, I know his calling card for them has been help defense, but, I mean, look, the guy's 7 feet tall. He's got an insane wingspan. I think he's pretty equipped to defend Jimmy Butler one-on-one, at least in certain times. Not the whole game, but especially in fourth quarters, that sort of thing. If it's not going to be that, Middleton's a good defender. It's cool. It's a little safe. It's a very Budenholzer type of thing to do. I think Drew is a little more interesting. I mean, Drew is a better defender than Middleton. I think most would agree there. But, he doesn't match up as well physically to Jimmy as Middleton does. But at the same time, Drew has always been one of those guys who can defend guys bigger than him because of his strength and his wingspan and all that. And other than that, with Jimmy, I just want to see if the Bucks are willing to get a little crazy on defense, similar to what I said with Dallas against the Clippers. Like, are you willing to double team? Are you willing to bust out a zone yourself? Is that a crazy question to ask Budenholzer? I don't feel like it should be, but it might be. Should be said, if you're going to be double teaming Jimmy, you would prefer to have the guy who's double teaming not be Bam's guy. If it's Brook Lopez, then that's going to be tough anyway. If it's Giannis, a little more possible. But if Bam has space to then make the next play, he will make the next play, which could just be he dunks on your face. Now, having Giannis at center would make some of that a little easier, I imagine. I mean, Dragic kind of coming back to last season, still not really there. He's not killing it every game, but there are times when he's beating guys off the dribble, playing in the pick and roll, looking like the nimble, agile Dragic. In other games, he looks like he's old and he's had lower body injuries. So we'll see. If we can remember last season, the main things that the Heat did was they ran all of the Dragic hero off-ball stuff, and the Bucks just went under all the screens. Like, they literally went under screens for Duncan Robinson. It was the dumbest thing I ever saw. They've been switching more this season, and they've ramped it up as the season has gone along. That doesn't mean they're suddenly going to solve all of Eric Spoelstra's motion offense, but it's a step in the right direction. The other things they did were, I don't remember all of it. They had Jimmy going the other way on screens, because you know what the Bucks, especially last year, they would love to do. It's like, oh, you're going to do a screen? All right, drop coverage, Giannis helping. We've rehearsed this a million times. Jimmy goes the other way, and it's like, oh, crap, what do we do now? Now it's like a Jimmy one-on-one with Pat Connaughton. I still don't really know if all those things are solved as far as Bam. So it'll be interesting to see how much of the offense is just run through Bam, not in the sense of the handoff plays, because they were doing that last year, but in the sense of like, hey, Bam, just go get us a bucket in the post or a face-up or whatever. When I think about the handoff action between Bam and Hero and Robinson and whoever else, Are we sure Brook Lopez can really defend that? Is he agile enough to move and really guard that while not allowing Bam to get by him on the dribble? I don't know. I mean, you might have to go to Giannis at center. You might have to go to Bobby Portis. You might just have to really hope that Brook Lopez can hold up and that sort of thing, and the guys chasing the shooters around can help him out enough. If I can think about some more straightforward Bam plays, Bam will be setting a lot of screens on the ball, mainly for Dragic, Kendrick Nunn, and Jimmy. We'll see if the Dragic one is still really good, because that was the most effective one a year ago. How does Brook Lopez handle that sort of thing? How does he handle Jimmy or whoever coming at him and Bam cutting on the other side? I mean, you could have somebody else step in to help out, and then you're daring Iguodala or Trevor Ariza or one of those guys to make a shot on you. That's probably what it's going to be, because there's not really a scenario in which they can switch Bam action and not be in a mismatch in the post. You could try trapping, which I mentioned earlier, on Jimmy. I mean, maybe if you're really built for that, it's just Bam is so good at making the next play or whatever. And it could just be a matter of you just bring extra guys to the basket and hope you can close out to the one dude who's going to be left kind of open. Of course, if the initial defense on the ball handler is good, then that'll of course help. And well, Drew is great at that. Middleton's good. If Drew is able to really make Kendrick Nunn or Dragic's life miserable in this series, then that could be pretty devastating for Miami. I think the other X factor for Miami would be Tyler Hero. Ideally, he can just do all of his off-ball stuff and play off of everybody else and occasionally do something off the dribble, but if Dragic is just going to prove to not be the same guy as last year and Hero needs to do a little bit more on the ball, how's that going to go? I mean, he's made some strides as a passer, but is he good enough to make the next play consistently, assuming the Bucks are maybe even giving him a little extra attention? So yeah, I feel like I got pretty much everything. I think most of the questions in this series come from Milwaukee in terms of game plan, whereas with Miami, it's more so, is Dragic as good as he was last year? Is Tyler Hero ready to have another really good series and all that type of stuff? I think the Bucks should be the favorites. I think they will win. And part of me wants to pick them in a sweep, as in a storybook we've finally arrived series, but it'll probably go 6 games or so, because you just figure Miami will find a way to win a couple.